A little girl with her lollipop walked gracefully toward a place. Police tried to stop her, but failed. It turned out inside there was a robbery. The little girl now transformed into an old man named Frank. With his strange power, he managed to defeat all the robbers there. But the leader of the criminals, named White, managed to take what he targeted. It was the plot device, a tool to control humans and their emotions. Now at the office, they all celebrated Frank's success in defeating all the robbers. In the office, he got a new mission, which was to trace the death of Simon. It was known that Simon's car plunged from a cliff, even though it was an electric car. At the crime scene, they found several objects, but he insisted that this case was purely suicide. At his office, Frank found a sexy old woman seducing, saying that her brother Simon could not possibly commit suicide, because today Simon had a schedule with this old woman named Mrs. Beth. Frank had to help her, because her brother could not possibly commit suicide, and began the investigation from his workplace where his boss himself was Simon's brother, namely Richard, the man who took the plot device from White, who robbed the bank. It turned out White was Richard's subordinate, but Frank had not realized it yet. The next day, Frank was instead given a gift of an electric car by Richard, which he thought was a gift because yesterday's conversation was quite memorable. Frank tried the electric car. Without realizing it, the battery charging cable was still attached to his car, causing chaos. Frank began investigating Simon at the elite bar owned by Richard, which he always visited. The bartender played around a little by saying that he did not know Simon, hoping to be given a tip, but the bartender had the wrong person.
Got a good memory.
Good. I remember he sat in a corner booth.
Frank forcibly entered the security room to see the CCTV, and he was forced to beat up several guards who stubbornly resisted him. He got some information that maybe the investigative journalist had, so Frank would visit him later. He saw many security forces rushing in. Frank fled. At his house, Frank received a guest who was Mrs. Beth, who would accompany the night and dig up whatever information Frank got, relaxing himself so as not to be too tense. Until the time came, Frank decided to visit the house of that investigative journalist.
I picked up your knife. Press record, say your name, and say I did it. Lieutenant Frank Drebin. I did it.
Frank was tricked by several cheap tricks. Frank escaped with his ninja moves, hurriedly leaving with the electric car, which turned out indeed, Richard was the real killer of Simon. Where that was proven from the electric car he gave to Frank, running fast uncontrollably, that could not be stopped. Now Frank was trapped. His workplace was closed because he was accused of being involved in crime. One way for this case to be resolved was to make the criminal confess his crime. So Frank had a plan. He sabotaged his car, giving him sleeping pills, and said that the plan they had made all this time had failed. And 3 days earlier, their boss was arrested and urged him to reveal the secret place where the plot device would be used to change human thoughts. After that confession, the room turned into a film studio. And also Frank was arrested because he trapped someone who was not necessarily guilty. Frank praised the police how he could build a trap so quickly that made the work agency arrest the police. Then Frank was free. Frank arrived where the plot device would be activated at the end of the UFC fight, right on New Year's Eve. Richard would turn the people there into his first big experiment. Inside the big lamp upstairs, Frank took it very carefully. Ron, who monitored him, was overwhelmed because he disguised himself as a beer seller whose customers were so many. Frank's pants got stuck and caused him to be naked. That attracted everyone's attention, including Richard, who knew Frank was about to ruin his act. Frank managed to take the plot device, but Richard first pressed the button that caused all the chaos to happen, while Richard with his group fled. Frank did not know what to do. He used an owl to chase Richard. A 1-versus-1 fight happened. Frank punched Richard in the stomach. It turned out Richard had never fought, so he decided to run away. But God's destiny said otherwise. This time, a big victory for Frank the Legend. Happy ending.